The crystal flute shattered against the floor, but nobody looked down. All eyes were on Gavin's hand, which was resting possessively on the small of my wife's back. "Oops," Gavin laughed, the sound wet and dismissive. He didn't look at the mess. He looked at me. "Clean that up, would you, David? You're good at cleaning up messes. It's about the only thing you are good at." The corporate gala was in full swing. The ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton smelled of roasted duck, expensive perfume, and the distinct, metallic scent of corporate fear. But right here, in this circle, it smelled like betrayal. Monica didn't flinch. She stood next to my manager, looking radiant in a red dress I had paid for, sipping champagne I had bought, smiling at a man who was actively humiliating her husband. "David, don't just stand there," Monica whispered, her voice tight with embarrassment. "Gavin is joking. Just, go get a waiter. Don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene, Monica," I said, my voice steady. "I'm just waiting for Gavin to remove his hand." Gavin smirked. He was a tall man, handsome in a conventional, polished way, with the kind of teeth that looked like they cost more than my annual salary, or at least, the salary he thought I earned. "Relax, Dave," Gavin said, squeezing Monica's waist. "We're all family here at Next Logistics, aren't we? Monica was just telling me how stressed you've been lately. How stagnant your career is." He leaned in closer, his cologne, a pungent musk, invading my personal space. "She's worried about your future. And frankly, so am I. The quarterly reviews are coming up next week. And let's just say, the numbers don't look good for the legacy employees." Legacy employees. That was Gavin's code for anyone over 30 who didn't laugh at his jokes. "Is that so?" I asked. I thought my efficiency reports were the highest in the department. "Efficiency isn't everything, Dave. It's about culture fit," Gavin said, winking at Monica. "And Monica fits the culture perfectly. She's ambitious. Fire. You're just smoke. And smoke gets cleared out." Monica touched his arm, giggling. A sound that used to be reserved for me. "Oh, stop it, Gavin. You're terrible." "But David, he has a point. You've been an analyst for 5 years. Gavin is a regional director. Maybe you should listen to him instead of fighting him." I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. I saw the calculation in her eyes. She wasn't just flirting, she was networking. She was betting on a new horse because she thought the old one was ready for the glue factory. "I'll keep that in mind," I said. I turned and walked away toward the bar. I needed distance. Not because I was sad, but because if I stayed there one more second, I might have revealed my hand too early. And poker is played until the river card is dealt. I ordered a sparkling water with lime. The bartender, an older man who had worked these events for years, gave me a sympathetic nod. He had seen it all. I took a sip and surveyed the room. Nobody here knew the truth. To them, I was David Mercer, senior data analyst, salary $65,000 a year. A quiet guy who drove a Honda Accord and brown-bagged his lunch. They didn't know that Next Logistics was just one subsidiary of Mercer Holdings. They didn't know that I had founded the parent company 12 years ago, sold my first tech startup for 9 figures, and bought this logistics chain 6 months ago because I saw potential in its infrastructure. I had placed myself in the analyst role undercover. I wanted to see why this specific branch was bleeding money despite high revenue. I found the leak 3 months ago. His name was Gavin Thorne. He was embezzling via vendor kickbacks. I had the data. I had the emails. I had everything. I was just waiting for the external audit to finalize the paper trail before I dropped the hammer. But I never expected my wife to be part of the collateral damage. I watched them across the room. They were dancing now. Slow. Too close. Gavin whispered something in her ear, and she threw her head back, laughing. Then, she rested her head on his shoulder. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Monica. Going to head home early. Migraine. Don't wait up. I looked up. She wasn't heading to the exit. She and Gavin were heading toward the elevators that led to the hotel suites. The rage finally hit me. It wasn't the hot, explosive rage of a jealous husband. It was the cold, clinical rage of a CEO who just realized he had a liability on the board. I finished my drink and walked over to the elevators. I didn't get in with them. I watched the numbers climb. They stopped on the 12th floor. The executive suites. I waited 5 minutes. Then I took the next car up. I walked down the hallway. I didn't need to guess the room. Gavin always booked Suite 1204 on the company card. I knew this because I approved the expense reports he thought were being auto-approved by a computer algorithm. I stood outside the door. I could hear music. Laughter. I didn't knock. I pulled out my master keycard, the one only the hotel manager and the owner of the corporate account possessed. The light turned green. I pushed the door open. They weren't in bed. Not yet. They were in the living area of the suite. Champagne was open. Monica was sitting on the sofa, her shoes off, holding a glass. Gavin was pacing, jacket off, tie loosened, looking like the king of the world. And once the audit is done next week, Gavin was saying, I'm going to fire half the department. Starting with your husband. It's a mercy killing, really. He's dragging you down, babe. With the bonus I'm getting, we can get that condo in Miami. Miami sounds perfect, Monica sighed. I'm so tired of the suburbs. David is just so small. He thinks small. Surprise, I said. Both of them jumped. Gavin spilled his drink on the carpet. Monica dropped hers, another shattered glass. David. Monica screamed, pulling her shawl around her shoulders as if she were naked. What the hell are you doing here? Are you stalking me? Gavin's face turned red, then purple. He marched toward me, pointing a finger in my face. You little creep. You broke into my room. That's it. You're done. You are fired. Get out of here before I call security and have you thrown in jail for trespassing. I didn't move. I didn't blink. You're going to fire me, Gavin? I asked, my voice calm, filling the room. On what grounds? Insubordination. Gavin roared. Harassment. Stupidity. Take your pick. You're a bug, Mercer. I can squash you whenever I want. I run this company. You run this company? I repeated. Damn right I do. The owners are some faceless board in New York who don't care as long as the numbers are green. I am the authority here. And I am telling you to get out. Monica stood up, her eyes pleading, not for me, but for the situation to end so she could save face. David, please, she hissed. Just go. We'll talk about a divorce in the morning. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Gavin is the man I love. He can give me the life I deserve. He certainly can, I said. A life of unemployment and legal battles. Gavin laughed. Unemployment? Buddy, I just signed a 5-year contract extension. I'm untouchable. I reached into my inner jacket pocket. Gavin flinched, perhaps thinking I had a weapon. I pulled out a single, folded piece of paper. It wasn't a weapon. It was worse. Actually, Gavin, I said, unfolding the document. You didn't sign a contract extension. You signed a letter of intent. Which is subject to the approval of the majority shareholder. So what? Gavin sneered. Like the owner knows who you are. The owner knows exactly who I am, I said. And he knows exactly who you are. I walked over to the minibar, poured myself a drink, and sat down in the armchair opposite them. Monica, I said, looking at my wife. You said I think small. You said I'm stagnant. You are. She cried. You've been an analyst for 5 years. No, I said. I've been playing an analyst for 5 years. Because I wanted to know if the people working for me were honest. And I wanted to know if the woman I married loved me for me, or for the lifestyle I could provide. I took a sip of the bourbon. I got my answer on both counts tonight. Gavin looked confused. The arrogance was wavering, replaced by a creeping unease. What are you talking about? Playing. Gavin, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Who signs your paychecks? The CFO, Mr. Henderson, Gavin said automatically. And who authorizes Mr. Henderson to release the funds? The chairman. Correct, I said. And have you ever met the chairman? Mr. D. Mercer. Gavin froze. No. Nobody has. He's a recluse. A. D. Mercer, I said slowly. Alex David Mercer. I reached into my wallet and threw my black titanium ID card onto the coffee table. It wasn't an employee badge. It was the ownership access card. Hello, Gavin. I believe you're sitting in my suite. Gavin stared at the black titanium card on the table. For a second, the room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the mini fridge. Then, he let out a laugh. It was a nervous, cracking sound, but he forced it into a sneer. Nice prop, Dave, Gavin scoffed, kicking the table leg. What did you do? Print that at Kinko's? You really expect me to believe that the guy who drives a 6-year-old Honda and eats tuna sandwiches is the chairman of a billion-dollar holding group? You're delusional. You're having a psychotic break. He turned to Monica, gesturing wildly. See? I told you he was weird. He snapped. Monica, call security. Tell them your ex-husband is threatening us. Monica looked at the card, then at me. She knew me. She knew I didn't play pranks. And she noticed something Gavin missed, the engraving on the card wasn't printed. It was laser-etched. Gavin, she whispered, her voice trembling. David doesn't lie. Shut up, Monica. Gavin shouted. He's a loser. And now he's a trespasser. He grabbed the room phone. I'm ending this charade right now. I'm calling the general manager. I'll have him thrown out on the street. Go ahead, I said, leaning back and crossing my legs. Dial 0. Ask for Mr. Sterling. Tell him there's a guest in suite 1204 who claims to be the owner. See what he says. Gavin ripped the receiver off the cradle. He punched the button aggressively, glaring at me the whole time. Yes. This is Gavin Thorne, Regional Director of Next Logistics. I have an intruder in my suite claiming to be, yeah. Yeah, send someone up now. He paused. His face twitched. What? He asked. The arrogance began to leak out of his voice. Yes, I'm looking at him. He's, average height, brown hair. Gavin listened for another 10 seconds. The color started to drain from his face, starting at his forehead and washing down to his neck until he looked like a sheet of paper. Are you sure? Gavin squeaked. He slowly lowered the phone, but he didn't hang up. The receiver dangled from his hand by the cord, swinging back and forth like a pendulum counting down his career. What did he say, Gavin? I asked pleasantly. Gavin looked at Monica, his eyes wide with terror. Mr. Sterling said that Mr. Mercer is currently in the building. He said he authorized the keycard entry 2 minutes ago. He said he's coming up with the security detail to escort the unauthorized personnel out. Unauthorized personnel, I repeated. That would be you. Monica let out a strangled gasp. She looked at me, her eyes scanning my face as if seeing a stranger. The man she had called stagnant was suddenly the most powerful person in her world. "David," she breathed, taking a step toward me. "Is it true? All of it? The startup? The holding company?" "Yes, Monica," I said. "I sold Vortex Tech for $200 million before we even met. I put it in a trust. I wanted to build something real with you. I wanted to know you loved me, not the bank account. I do love you," she cried, tears instantly springing to her eyes. She rushed over, kneeling beside my chair, grabbing my hand. "David, please. You have to understand. I was lonely. Gavin manipulated me. He told me you were going to be fired. I was just trying to protect our future." I looked down at her. It was pathetic. "You weren't protecting our future, Monica. You were securing your exit strategy." I pulled my hand away. "And Gavin," I said, turning to the man who was now leaning against the wall for support. "Since we're clearing the air, let's talk about your future." "David, wait," Gavin stammered, holding up his hands. "Mr. Mercer." "Sir. Look, it's a personal matter, right? We can keep this professional. I'm your top earner. The numbers don't lie. You need me." "You're right. Numbers don't lie," I said. "But people do." I reached for the folder I had placed on the table next to the ID card. "You mentioned earlier that you were getting a big bonus next week," I said, opening the file. "I assume you were referring to the vendor optimization kickoff?" Gavin stopped breathing. How do you know about that?" "Because I'm the analyst who flagged the discrepancies, Gavin. Remember the boring spreadsheets you told me to ignore? I didn't ignore them. I traced them. I pulled out a spreadsheet with highlighted rows. You set up a shell company called GT Logistics. You've been approving invoices for shipping containers that don't exist. You're billing us for phantom freight and pocketing the difference. $300,000 in the last 18 months. Gavin's knees gave out. He literally slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. That's an accounting error," he whispered weakly. "No," I said. "That's embezzlement. That's grand larceny. And that's a federal crime because the wires crossed state lines." Monica scrambled back from Gavin as if he were radioactive. "You stole from the company? Gavin. You told me you earned that money. You bought me earrings with stolen money." "Oh, stop the act, Monica," I snapped. "You didn't care where the money came from as long as it sparkled." A heavy knock pounded on the door. "Housekeeping?" Gavin asked, a sliver of delirious hope in his voice. "No," I said, checking my watch. "That would be the police. I filed the report an hour ago. I just wanted to see the look on your face before they read you your rights." The door opened. Mr. Sterling, the hotel manager, walked in, looking grave. Behind him were two uniformed police officers and the head of Next Logistics Legal, a woman named Sarah who looked ready to kill. "Mr. Mercer," Sterling said, bowing his head to me. "I apologize for the disturbance in your suite. We have the authorities here as requested." I stood up and buttoned my jacket. "Thank you, Sterling," I said. I pointed at Gavin, who was now weeping silently on the floor. "That's the man. He has unauthorized company property on his laptop. Seize it." Sarah stepped forward. "Gavin Thorne, you are hereby terminated for cause, effective immediately. Your stock options are voided. We are pressing full charges." One of the officers pulled Gavin up. He didn't fight. He looked like a man who had just watched his entire life burn down in under 5 minutes. "David." Gavin sobbed as they cuffed him. "Mercer. Please. I have a mortgage. I have kids. You should have thought about them before you stole from me, I said coldly. And before you slept with my wife. They dragged him out. The door closed, leaving only me, the hotel manager, and Monica in the room. Monica stood in the center of the ruin, clutching her shawl. She looked at the door where her rich boyfriend had just been hauled away, then she looked at me, the actual billionaire she had betrayed. She licked her lips. She fixed her hair. She put on the smile that had fooled me for 5 years. David, she whispered, stepping closer, her voice dropping to that sultry tone she used when she wanted something. He's gone. It's over. We can fix this. You hid who you were, so we both have secrets, right? Let's just go home. To your real home. We can start fresh. I looked at her. Sterling, I said to the hotel manager. Yes, sir. Is the penthouse available? Monica's eyes lit up. Oh, David, the penthouse. Tonight? Just us. Yes, the penthouse is available, Mr. Mercer, Sterling said. Good, I said. Have my things moved there immediately. I turned to Monica. As for you. I looked at Monica. She was beaming, her eyes already glazing over with visions of marble floors and room service. She thought she had survived the crash. She thought she was the cargo I would salvage. As for you, I continued, my voice devoid of warmth. You misunderstood, Monica. I said my things are being moved to the penthouse. Her smile faltered, twitching at the corners. But we're married. Your things are my things. Where you go, I go. That's the vow, remember? For better or worse. You voided that vow the moment you walked into this room with Gavin, I said. And you certainly didn't care about worse when you were planning to divorce me for being an analyst. I turned to Mr. Sterling. Sterling, this woman is not a guest of the hotel. She is not listed on the reservation for the penthouse. And as of 5 minutes ago, the corporate card used to book this suite has been cancelled. Sterling nodded, his face a mask of professional indifference. Understood, Mr. Mercer. That means this room is currently unpaid. Monica's face went pale. What? No, Gavin paid for it. Or the company. The company doesn't pay for adultery, Monica, I said, setting my glass down. And since Gavin is currently in the back of a squad car, I doubt he's settling the bill. I checked my watch. The rate for the executive suite is $1,200 a night. Plus the champagne. Plus the broken glass. I buttoned my jacket and walked toward the door. David! She screamed, rushing to block my path. She grabbed my lapels, her perfume, once my favorite scent, now smelling cloying and cheap. You can't leave me here. I don't have that kind of money. You know I don't. I spent my paycheck on this dress. Then you should have kept the receipt, I said, gently but firmly removing her hands from my suit. Because you're not getting a refund on your choices. I'll sue you. She shrieked, her mask finally slipping, revealing the ugliness underneath. I'll take half. I know you have millions. I'll hire the best lawyer in the city and I'll bleed you dry. I stopped. I leaned in close, so close I could see the smudged mascara on her cheek. You can try, Monica. But you're forgetting something. The trust one put my money in. It was established before the marriage. It's ironclad. You get what you came into this marriage with. I looked her up and down. Which, if I recall, was a leased Honda and student debt. I stepped around her. Mr. Sterling, I said. Escort her out. If she refuses to pay the bill, add it to her credit report. I hear she's worried about her future. She should be. David. David. I walked down the hallway. Her screams followed me, echoing off the tasteful wallpaper, desperate and shrill. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the penthouse. As the doors slid shut, cutting off the sound of her voice, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel lonely. I felt light. The boardroom at Mercer Holdings was quiet. The glass walls offered a panoramic view of the skyline, the city I had helped build, the city I now owned a significant piece of. I sat at the head of the table. No more undercover analyst work. No more tuna sandwiches in the break room. I wore a bespoke suit, and my name was on the door. Sarah, my chief legal officer, slid a file across the mahogany table. "The Gavin Thorne verdict came in this morning," she said. I opened the file. Guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage. Sentence? I asked. 5 years in federal prison. Restitution ordered, but he has no assets. We seized the house, the car, even his 401k. He's bankrupt. Good, I said, closing the file. And the divorce? Finalized yesterday, Sarah said, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. She contested the premarital trust, just like you predicted. The judge threw it out. She walked away with her personal effects and a bill for your legal fees. I stood up and walked to the window. It was raining outside. A cold, gray drizzle. I looked down at the street, 40 stories below. The people looked like ants. Do you know where she is? I asked. I didn't care, really. But curiosity is a stubborn reflex. Last I heard, Sarah said, standing up to leave, she moved back in with her parents. She's working as a shift manager at a retail store in the mall. Selling handbags she can no longer afford. I nodded. I remembered the night at the gala. You're smoke, Gavin had said. And smoke gets cleared out. He was wrong. I wasn't smoke. I was the fire. They were just the wood that had to burn to keep me warm. I turned back to the empty room. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a woman I had met at a charity auction last week. She was a pediatric surgeon. She drove a 10-year-old Volvo and didn't know who Mercer Holdings was. Dinner tonight? I know a great hole-in-the-wall for tacos. I smiled. I love tacos, I typed back. I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the office. The legacy employee was gone. The chairman had work to do. And for the first time in years, the numbers finally added up.